Hey man, every man learns this the hard way. The moment you cross that invisible line between steady confidence and desperate care, everything shifts. At first, she's drawn to your strength, your nonchalance, your ability to stand in your own world without needing her to validate you. That energy is magnetic because it communicates abundance of options, abundance of self-respect, abundance of discipline. But the second you tip into overcaring, texting too much, checking in constantly, rearranging your life around hers, she feels the shift in energy. What was once steady becomes clingy, what was once attractive becomes suffocating, and without warning, the same woman who begged for your attention yesterday suddenly loses all interest today. Not because she hates you, not because you did something unforgivable, but because the frame flipped. The brutal truth is that women aren't built to value what comes too easily. Desire for them is fueled by uncertainty, by challenge, by the subtle fear that you could leave at any moment. That fear keeps their emotions alive, keeps their imagination spinning, keeps their respect intact. But when you start caring too much, when you show her that no matter what she does, you'll stay, that mystery evaporates. She no longer has to wonder about your value because you've made it too clear. Your entire emotional world now revolves around her. And that's when she pulls back, because in her eyes, the man who gives his all too quickly is not a man who values himself. He's a man desperate for validation. And nothing dries up attraction faster than desperation disguised as care. Think about it. In the beginning, she chased your attention. She wondered about your silence. She craved your approval. That tension made her feel alive because she had to earn it. But once you started flooding her with reassurance, compliments, constant presence, you removed her part in the dance. Now she doesn't have to earn anything because you're giving it all away for free. And here's the paradox, the more you care outwardly, the less she feels cared for internally. Because care without boundaries doesn't feel like love, it feels like weakness. And women are biologically wired to distrust weakness in men, no matter how much they claim to want affection and emotional openness. It's not the caring itself that kills attraction, it's the imbalance that exposes the loss of your masculine center. This is why women often leave men confused with contradictions. They'll say, I want a man who shows his feelings, but when you pour them out endlessly, they recoil. They'll say, I want consistency, but when you make yourself constantly available, they grow restless. They'll say, I want you to care, but when you care too much, they vanish. These contradictions aren't hypocrisy, they're instinct. What they really want is a man who can show care without losing himself, who can be warm without being dependent, who can protect without becoming a servant. But most men don't see the difference. They take her words literally, care too much, give too much, and then watch her slowly drift away, confused as to why doing everything right led to the wrong outcome. The second you care too much, she feels the balance tip, and women are hypersensitive to that shift. She feels it in your tone, in the way you text back instantly, in the way you cancel plans just to see her, in the way your world starts revolving around her moods. At first, she might smile at the attention, but deep down it sparks something she doesn't consciously admit. Doubt. Doubt in your strength, doubt in your independence, doubt in whether you're the kind of man she can truly respect long term. She may never say it out loud, but she feels it. And once that seed of doubt is planted, attraction starts to wither. She'll tell herself she's just not feeling it anymore. But what really happened is simple. You cared too much, and in doing so, you killed the very tension that made her want you in the first place. The second you start caring too much, she begins to test you more aggressively. She'll pull away slightly, delay her replies, create unnecessary conflict, just to see how you respond. And because you care too much, you react instantly. You chase, you explain, you overcompensate. What you don't realize is that this is exactly the moment she's measuring you. To her, tests aren't about the surface issue. They're about your strength. Will you stay centered when she withdraws, or will you panic? Will you hold your frame when she challenges you, or will you crumble just to keep her happy? And when you care too much, you almost always fail, because your fear of losing her outweighs your commitment to your own boundaries. She doesn't consciously think, I'll leave him because he failed this test. But instinctively, she loses respect. And once respect goes, attraction follows right behind it. To women, excessive care looks less like love and more like dependency. When you orbit her every word, when you adjust your entire mood to her emotions, when you make her the sun around which you revolve, she doesn't feel cherished. She feels burdened. Because deep down, she knows she can't carry the weight of being your everything. A man who cares too much forces her into a role she doesn't want, the center of his identity. And ironically, instead of making her feel secure, it makes her feel trapped. She begins to wonder, if I leave, will he collapse? If I stay, will I always have to mother him? That anxiety disguises itself as irritation, and irritation quickly turns into withdrawal. She doesn't leave because you cared. She leaves because your caring revealed you had nothing else anchoring you beyond her. Women crave polarity, the dance of masculine strength and feminine energy. But when you care too much, you collapse that polarity. You stop being the mountain, steady and immovable, and instead become the tide, endlessly rushing toward her. And while tides may seem romantic, mountains are what she truly respects. She wants to feel your care, without feeling like you're unmoored, without feeling like you've abandoned your mission, your purpose, your vision. But when you care too much, you abandon those very things. You skip the gym to be with her. You ignore your work to text her. You silence your hobbies just to spend more time together. And at first she might praise it, but soon she senses the imbalance. You've made her your mission, and nothing suffocates attraction faster than being idolized as your entire world. The cruel twist is that the men who care too much often believe they're doing everything right. They listen, they support, they sacrifice, they shower her with affection, believing this will secure her love. But instead of securing her, it unsettles her. She starts to feel she has too much power, that you're no longer her equal, but her subordinate. And women don't want subordinates, they want leaders, men who inspire respect. She may not even consciously realize this dynamic has shifted, but she feels it in her bones. She feels that she no longer has to work for your love, and because of that, she no longer values it. The irony is painful. The more you give freely, the less she treasures it. That's why silence and restraint often create more love than overcaring ever will. When you don't rush to respond, when you don't cancel your plans, when you don't shower her with endless words, you maintain tension. She wonders where she stands with you, and that wondering fuels her attraction. It's not about playing games, it's about staying balanced. Caring without restraint is indulgence. It's like pouring too much water on a plant and drowning it. But caring with boundaries is discipline. It gives her enough to feel nurtured without suffocating her. Men who understand this know that the second you cross into overcaring, you don't strengthen the bond, you strangle it. And that's why the man who remains calm, measured, and restrained will always be more attractive than the man who drowns her in care she never asked for. When a man cares too much, he doesn't see what she sees. He thinks his devotion is strength, but in her eyes, it's weakness. Women are biologically wired to seek out strength, because strength equals protection, stability, and survival. The moment she senses that your emotional world is dependent on hers, she instinctively interprets it as fragility. She may smile when you tell her you can't live without her, but deep down, it doesn't make her feel secure. It makes her question whether you're capable of standing on your own 2 feet, and that doubt kills attraction. Because if you can't be strong without her, then you're not strong enough to lead with her. The second your care becomes your identity, she stops seeing you as the rock she can lean on and starts seeing you as another weight she'll eventually have to carry. Hypergamy, that instinct that drives women to seek the best option available, kicks in hard when you care too much. If you're constantly bending over backward to keep her happy, it signals to her subconscious that you don't believe you're the prize. And if you don't believe you're the prize, why should she? Hypergamy doesn't reward the man who tries the hardest. It rewards the man who stands tallest, the man who doesn't beg, who doesn't compromise his essence, who doesn't collapse into overcaring. So when you show her that her approval matters more to you than your self-respect, she begins to instinctively scan the horizon for men who won't crumble so easily. And in that scanning, she starts to pull away, not necessarily because she found someone else, but because she realized you stopped being the man she first respected. Men often confuse indifference with neglect, but women respond to indifference far more powerfully than they do to excessive care. Indifference doesn't mean ignoring her or being cold. It means your sense of self isn't swayed by her moods, her silence, or even her temporary withdrawal. It means you're centered in your own world, your own mission, your own vision, regardless of what she does. That calmness creates magnetic tension because it proves to her that you're not controlled by her. On the flip side, when you care too much, you broadcast the opposite message, that she controls your emotions, that her presence dictates your stability. And once she knows she can sway you that easily, she loses respect. Respect dies first, attraction dies second, and love dies last. But once respect is gone, the rest is inevitable. This is why women often say they want a man who doesn't care too much, but men misinterpret it. They don't mean they want a man who's cold or heartless. They mean they want a man who cares from abundance, not desperation. They want a man who can give affection without losing his independence, who can show love without needing constant reassurance in return. The second you slip into caring too much, you stop giving from abundance and start giving from lack. And women can smell lack the way sharks smell blood in the water. They won't always call it out directly. They may just say they lost the spark or the vibe changed. But underneath those vague excuses lies a simple truth. Your overcaring made them see you as less than the man they first desired. This is why some men experience the cruel irony of being left after doing everything right. They were attentive, affectionate, generous, and endlessly supportive, and yet instead of being rewarded for it, they were abandoned. Why? Because in their effort to show love, they stripped away their edge, their mystery, their polarity. They didn't understand that women fall in love with men who are a little untouchable, a little unpredictable, a little unbending. They want to feel chosen, yes, but they also want to feel that your life, your mission, your essence would continue even if they left. When you care too much, you erase that image. You make her feel like she's the engine that keeps you alive. And that weight is suffocating, not romantic. So she leaves not because you didn't love her enough, but because you loved her so much that you lost yourself in the process. The man who cares too much doesn't realize he's entering into a cycle of constant failure. Once she senses his overinvestment, she begins to test him harder, pulling back to see if he'll chase, questioning him to see if he'll grovel, creating small conflicts to see if he'll collapse. And every time he reacts from a place of fear, every time he scrambles to prove himself, he validates her suspicion that he's no longer the man she once respected. Women don't consciously plan these tests. They're instinctive. They're built into their psychology as a way to filter out weakness. And when you care too much, you expose yourself as weak, not because caring is wrong, but because your care has no restraint, no balance, no foundation in self-respect. You've placed her above you, and no woman can truly love a man she sees beneath her. Mystery, ironically, creates more security in her mind than constant validation ever will. When you aren't always available, when you don't always explain yourself, when you let silence linger instead of filling every gap with reassurance, you give her something to lean against your strength. She doesn't have to consciously think, he's mysterious so I respect him. She simply feels it. She feels that you're not dependent on her reactions to know your worth. But the moment you care too much, you remove the mystery. You tell her everything, show her everything, give her everything, until there's nothing left to wonder about. And once the mystery dies, so does the emotional spark. Because desire isn't born in comfort, it's born in tension. Predictability is another silent killer that comes from overcaring. At first, she might appreciate your consistency, your routine texts, your predictable devotion, but soon, predictability turns into boredom. If she always knows you'll respond within seconds, always knows you'll cancel your plans to be with her, always knows you'll agree just to keep the peace, she stops feeling the thrill of earning you. And that thrill is everything. When you care too much, you make yourself predictable to the point of invisibility. She stops seeing you as exciting and starts seeing you as expected, ordinary, replaceable. And here's the cruel irony. The less she can predict you, the more she'll cling. The more she can predict you, the faster she'll leave. Overcaring also reveals itself in body language and energy. Even when you think you're holding back, she sees it in the way you lean forward when you talk to her instead of holding your frame. She senses it when your tone becomes overly sweet, overly cautious, overly eager to please. She notices when your eyes seek her approval after every joke, every comment, every touch. You don't have to say the words, "I care too much." Your entire presence betrays it. And once she feels it, she can't unfeel it. Women are tuned into subtle energy shifts far more than men realize. And the energy of overcaring communicates one message louder than words ever could. I need you more than you need me. The most tragic part of this dynamic is that men often discover it too late. By the time they realize their overcaring drove her away, she's already gone. They replay the relationship in their heads, confused, angry, bitter. I gave her everything, and she still left. But giving her everything is exactly why she left. Not because women don't want love, but because women don't respect men who abandon themselves in the name of love. A man must remain whole, centered, and self-sufficient even inside a relationship. The second he makes her the sun around which he orbits, he loses gravity, he loses pull, he loses edge, And once that edge is gone, the attraction isn't just weakened, it's dead. And when it dies, she doesn't leave slowly, she's gone in a flash, without looking back. When you care too much, you don't just lose her attraction, you lose your masculinity in her eyes. Masculinity isn't about brute force or coldness, it's about the ability to remain calm, steady, and self-directed, no matter what happens. A woman looks to a man not only for love, but for leadership, for stability, for the reassurance that no matter what storms come, he won't be knocked off balance. But when you smother her with care, when you beg for her attention, when you prove again and again that her validation is your oxygen, she starts to see you less as a leader and more as a follower. And the moment she categorizes you as a follower, the relationship is doomed, because a woman cannot fully love a man she does not respect, and she cannot respect a man who has abandoned his own center just to orbit hers. Space is one of the most underrated ingredients in attraction. When you give a woman space, not as a punishment, not as a manipulation, but as a natural byproduct of living your own life, you reignite her curiosity. She starts to wonder what you're doing, where you're going, why you're not always available. That wondering creates tension, and tension fuels desire. But when you care too much, you destroy space. You fill every silence with words, every gap with messages, every day with your presence, and instead of pulling her closer, you push her away. Because desire needs oxygen, and oxygen only comes from space. Without it, she suffocates. And when she suffocates, she bolts. Not because she doesn't love you, but because love cannot survive when there's no room to breathe. The man who understands this dynamic never panics when a woman pulls back, because he knows pulling back is part of the rhythm. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he doesn't explain himself to death. He continues moving forward, living his life, pursuing his mission. And ironically, that very detachment pulls her back in. Because when she feels his absence, when she sees he isn't consumed by her, she remembers why she was drawn to him in the first place. His strength, his independence, his ability to be whole without her. Overcaring men think they can secure love through control. Strong men secure love through freedom. And women, though they may never admit it, always respond more to the man who gives them the freedom to miss him than to the man who never lets them breathe. This is why the man who keeps his frame never has to worry about her leaving. Frame is the invisible foundation of masculine presence. It's the unspoken reality that you are who you are, regardless of her approval. It doesn't mean being arrogant or dismissive. It means you don't collapse into neediness just because she's upset, distant, or testing you. A man with frame can care deeply, but his care never undermines his strength. He can love openly, but his love never turns into worship. And because of that, she respects him. And respect, more than affection, more than romance, is what keeps women loyal. Once respect is gone, nothing else matters. But when respect is intact, attraction follows like a shadow, and love has a foundation to last. So here's the truth. No one tells you. The second you care too much, she's gone. Not because women are cruel, not because they don't want love, but because overcaring violates the very structure of attraction. Women are drawn to men who can balance care with strength, affection with independence, love with leadership. They need to feel your heart without fearing you'll lose your backbone. They need to know you can love them without worshipping them. And the men who learn this truth stop being blindsided when women walk away. They understand that caring isn't the problem. Caring without boundaries is. And once you see it clearly, once you refuse to abandon yourself in the name of love, you'll realize something powerful. The women who leave when you stay grounded are the ones who never deserved your care in the first place. The real art of attraction isn't in pouring your entire soul into her. It's in learning how to balance giving with withholding. Most men who care too much believe they're proving love, but what they're really proving is that they've abandoned all self-restraint. Women don't want a man who overextends himself until he's drained. They want a man who can say no, who can set boundaries, who can show that his life has weight beyond the relationship. Restraint communicates strength. It tells her, without words, that you are a man who chooses to care, not a man who has to care in order to feel complete. And that difference is everything. Because when your care is a choice, it holds value. When it's a compulsion, it becomes worthless. One of the most powerful dynamics in relationships is the possibility of loss. When a woman knows deep down that if she disrespects you enough, if she withdraws too far, if she crosses your boundaries, she could actually lose you, she values you more. Not because she lives in fear, but because she knows you live by standards. Men who care too much remove that possibility. They make it clear that no matter what she does, they'll stay. And instead of making her feel secure, it makes her feel entitled. Entitlement kills gratitude. Gratitude kills respect. And once respect is gone, attraction isn't far behind. By contrast, the man who carries himself with quiet indifference when necessary, the man who shows her that his world won't collapse without her, forces her to realize his value, and that realization makes her chase him instead of taking him for granted. The strongest men understand that love isn't about constant presence, it's about consistent energy. You don't need to text her 50 times a day to prove you care. You need to show up as the same grounded man, whether she's adoring you or testing you. That consistency doesn't come from caring too much. It comes from knowing who you are with or without her. When you're rooted in your mission, your passions, your discipline, you radiate an energy that doesn't need validation. That's the kind of energy women crave, because it feels safe, it feels powerful, it feels unshakable. Caring too much destabilizes that energy, makes you reactive, emotional, unsteady. And no woman can truly fall in love with a man whose emotions swing at the mercy of her every move. Here's the paradox: the less you show you need her, the more she invests in keeping you. Women may roll their eyes at hard to get, but the psychology is undeniable. What's scarce is valuable. What's common is ignored. When you care too much, you become common, predictable, guaranteed, safe, and safe quickly turns into boring. But when you show her, through your actions, that while you care, you don't need her, she invests more. She texts you first. She plans for you. She adjusts her schedule around you. Not because you manipulated her, but because you held your value. And women, no matter how much they deny it, cannot resist valuing what they believe they could lose. The possibility of loss creates urgency. Overcaring kills it. So let this truth sink deep. The second you care too much, she's gone. Not because love isn't real, but because love cannot survive where respect dies. Women will never admit this openly. They'll blame timing, compatibility, not feeling it, anything but the real reason. But the reality is simple. Attraction lives in tension, respect lives in boundaries, and desire lives in the unknown. When you care too much, you erase all three. You kill tension by being predictable. You kill respect by being spineless, and you kill desire by being too available. The man who learns to care with discipline, not indulgence, never loses himself, and because of that, he rarely loses her. And if she still walks away, then she wasn't leaving love, she was leaving the fantasy that you'd break yourself just to keep her. And that's no loss at all.